Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Void Century podcast. This is episode 16, and you're here with Ed and Adam. This is chapter 981, Joining the Fight. And remember, we left off with Kid attacking Apoo, and he took some serious damage. Apoo, that is. He's got cracked glasses, and the Beast Pirates are like, what is going on? They're very confused. And they recognize Captain Kidd, and they're like, wait a minute, he's wearing our clothes, but that's definitely Captain Kidd. So Queen Queen actually goes all Enel face, and it's funnier because Queen has sunglasses. So like his eyes are literally sticking out of the glass. It's hilarious. And he's just like, what's going on? Kid is supposed to be an udon, and and Queen realizes that Babanuki lied to him, saying that there's no problems in udon. Apu and Kid are face to face. Kid is basically confronting Apu for betraying him and saying, I should have known from the beginning that you were an informant for Kaido. And Apu is just like, you know what, dude? An alliance between us wouldn't have mattered anyway. Like, how can we go against a Yonko like Kaido? Like, we couldn't have gone very far. Side note, like, this is why Apu is not a T. All right. So it ends with Apu attacking Kid with a Sonic Slash, and Kid is just like, "You're trash," and he takes some damage, and the Beast underlings realize that they're not strong enough to just like capture these members of the worst generation they're facing, and Queen gives them the go ahead to kill. So the Beast Pirates are all like excited and happy, and they're like, okay, finally we can actually do something about these intruders. And they realize that Killer's here too, and a giant figure says, "You guys are not strong enough to be part of the Flying Six, even if you kill him." And we see this giant guy, turns out to be a number, swinging a spiked mace, and he's even like he doesn't care if the Beast Pirates are there. He's just attacking where Kid, Luffy, and Killer and Zoro are at. So everyone's running away, and we are introduced to the numbers Hacha. And side note, it seems like it's based off of the number 8, which is Hachi in Japanese. So then one of the Beast Pirates, he looks like a turtle fused guy, like he's like riding on the back of a turtle. Shoots explosive arrow, and Luffy blocks it and protects Kid and saves Kid's life. And well, not his life necessarily, but they save Kid. And Kid looks really annoyed that he had to be saved by Luffy again. And Luffy starts to berate Kid, and he's like, "I should have known that you were gonna cause a scene." And Zoro's like, "No, like Luffy, you're like who's talking." And Kid's like, same could be said about you. And Killer is just like, they're all idiots. And then he does his now trademark fwa fwa laugh. So Apu starts to begin an attack, and Killer instructs everyone to cover their ears. The attack seems to have no effect. It goes off, and nobody takes damage this time. And Apu's kind of upset because he wanted to deal damage, and he's like, well, looks like they figured out the trick to my devil fruit. And Kid begins to explain, like, yeah, you can't take damage if you don't hear his attacks. And none of the Kid, Luffy, or Zoro hear him explaining this because their ears are still covered. So next we have a scene where these people who end up being who's who subordinates just talking about what's going on. They say that there's a lot of the worst generation in Onigashima, and there's going to be a lot of fame and ranking up between the Beast Pirates ranks if you take them out. Another one of the subordinates talks about how Killer became a pleasure by eating a smile, and how Orochi presented the fruit to Killer, saying that if you eat it, it'll save Kid. Who's Who is just looking down, seeing Kid and Luffy bickering, and realizes that they escaped from Udon. We finally see the subordinates of Who's Who, and they've all kind of got like similar outfits and masks. Well, not all of them, but most of them have masks. They basically ask Who's Who what to do, and he's just like, you know what, we're gonna disregard these intruders because I'd rather find Yamato and become a new all-star. So Yeah, and he agrees with Queen and he says that he wants to kill someone.
Then we get a panel of Onigashima, and we see one of those paper, I guess, doors, and the shadow of Big Mom behind these doors. And it seems like she's finally gotten in touch with the rest of her crew via Denden Mushi. However, there's some confusion as to the port to arrive on. Pero Sparrow is talking to Big Mom, and he's like, "Oh, Big Mom, there aren't any other ships at the port." And Big Mom's like, "It's Wano. What port are you talking about?" It's a quick panel, but then we get another overview with the narrator giving us the battle plan of Onigashima. We see that Kinemon and his forces are approaching halfway up the east side of the mountain range that flanks Onigashima, and there has now been a new plan at the halfway point of flanking up these mountains. They're going to split the forces in two. One half of the forces will attack the rear of Kaido's castle, and the other half will go in from the side to perform a pincer maneuver. However, in the next panel, we see that Kinemon and some of the Straw Hats and the rest of them have arrived at a place that was not on the maps of Onigashima for the battle plan, so it seems rather new. It's a place by the water, there's a bridge, there's wisteria trees all overhead, and they're like, "Oh, it's a pleasure hall." And Sanji, who's with them all, is like, "Oh my god, a pleasure hall." His eyes just start turning into hearts and bulging out of his head. And Kinemon's like, "Okay, well, if we march our forces over the bridge, it's going to look really suspicious. So we need to find out who's in the pleasure hall, and we need to figure out what's going on." And unknown to them, the narrator lets us know that this pleasure hall belongs to Black Maria of the Flying Six. Sanji, by some force of perviness, just gets attracted into this pleasure hall, this house of ill repute, and he just, he's drooling, his eyes are hearts, and he's just getting sucked in like a tractor beam. While Shinobu and the rest of the Straw Hats are like, "Okay, well, we'll go infiltrate the building, we'll look for Momo, we'll split up." Kinemon seems to be very distraught about Momo, and Momo vowing to escape by himself. And Nami's like, "Hey, Kinemon, you're really worried about Momo. Like, we see that. Don't worry about Momo. We'll worry about finding Momo. You worry about leading the forces." And Carrot's like, "Yeah, you can focus on us. You can lean on us. We're your friends. We'll help you fight, and we'll help look for Momo." And then we see Sanji coming out of the pleasure hall, and he looks extremely distraught. He looks really upset. He's all gloomy. And they're like, "Oh, Sanji, he's probably upset because there weren't any women in there." And then Kinemon's like, "Well, if there's not any women in the pleasure hall, there's no men. So, okay, there's nobody there. We'll just cross as usual. But keep your eyes out, look in the windows of the pleasure hall. If you see anybody, jump into the water." And they're like, "Oh, okay." It just so happens the moment that Chopper and his little tank start to go past the pleasure hall, we see the door of the pleasure hall open, and Chopper makes eye contact with the person who's inside the pleasure hall, and it turns out to be Big Mom, who doesn't look... He looks dead. Chopper has no idea what's going on. He's absolutely shook. He's like an inch away from a heart attack. But what's really interesting is Big Mom is just staring at him. She's not mad. She's not happy. She's actually not showing any expression. She's just blank. So then we get a shot of the waterfalls outside of Wano, and somebody saying, "Hello, my brothers and sisters, take heed," and as we climb the waterfall, so we can only assume it's the rest of the Big Mom pirates. We actually see Pero Sparrow, and he's like, "Haha, King, you haven't seen the last of us." And they're climbing up the falls again, and they're like, "Why is this country so crazy? Why don't they just have a normal port or a harbor? Why do we have to go up a waterfall?" And they're like, "You know what else is crazy? Big Mom formed an alliance with the Beast Pirates. What's she thinking? I have no idea." And they're like, "Okay, guys, remember why we're here in the first place. We're just here to find the Straw Hats and pay them back for ruining the wedding and tarnishing Big Mom's reputation and embarrassing her." And we get to see all the big players again. We get to see Smoothie and Daifuku. We get to see Montour again, and of course Flampe, and she's like, "Oh, I really want Kaido-senpai to like me." And so they're climbing up the fall, and they get to the top, and Pero Sparrow's like, "Yes, this was the last time we were here. This was where King was waiting for us." And out of nowhere, we see like something off in the distance, and Pero Sparrow's like, "Oh my god, King, no, not again." And then all of a sudden he's like, no, it's not King. And we get reintroduced to Marco the Phoenix of the Whitebeard Pirates. Hey, hey.
Oh my god, sorry. I had to interrupt. That's amazing. It's so hype.
Oh, you're so good. It's so hype. Like, we finally get to see him again, and he's got glasses now? Okay, but back to the content. I'm super hyped to see Marco. So he's like, oh, so the Big Mom Pirates and the Beast Pirates joining forces, that was true? Oh, that's super interesting. Well, let's take you out of the fight for a little while, and we actually see Marco perform a new attack which launches the Big Mama Shanter off of the falls. This attack specifically is named Phoenix Brand, and it looks like a big explosion. Sparrow is shook, his tongue's out, his eyes are out, and he's like, are you kidding me? Not again. And they're like, why is Marco here? It's like a Team Rocket moment. It's glorious. And Marco's like, hey guys, the next time you show up, the world's gonna look a little different than it was before. And we see them falling down the falls. And then we see their teeth in their face, and he's like, what was that? The big old ship falling down over the falls, and from the teeth and the grin, you can only assume it's Neko Mamushi, whose mission was to find Marco and bring him to aid the Straw Hats and the other Red Scabbards. And even more hype than even Neko, and maybe even Marco, is Izo's there too. And Izo's all like, oh man, I haven't seen Marco go this all out since the war. So Izo, Marco, and Neko are now on Wano. And that's the end of the chapter. And we don't have a break next week. So what do you think?
So first off, we've been saying from the beginning, we're going to see Marco, Neko, and Izo come to Wano. And it's finally happened. I'm so excited. And also in one fell swoop, the Big Mom Pirates are out of commission. They're gone. Like the only Big Mom pirate on Wano this battle is going to be Big Mom herself.
The only question I still have is, so what's the deal with Prometheus and Napoleon? Big Mom still has Napoleon, doesn't she?
I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing her with Napoleon since she became Olin. I am not sure, to be honest. And we haven't seen Prometheus either. So I honestly don't know.
I could have swore she had Napoleon with her when she was rampaging as Olin. However, Napoleon just wasn't talking for some reason, and that's one thing we were all speculating on. But it seems really interesting. So back to your point, yeah. So Big Mom is the only member of the Big Mom Pirates actually in Wano. So it just further weakens like their battle power in the upcoming fight. So some of the speculation we had about like the Big Mom Pirates meeting up with the Beast Pirates and fracturing that way based on their differences and their ideologies, that's out the window now. But again, Sparrow and the rest of the Big Mom Pirates, they do show a lot of disdain for the Beast Pirates. So again, that is one reason why they don't like each other. So it is super cool, but it's real crazy that Big Mom's the only one that's there. I think it's even crazier that she saw Chopper and that nothing was wrong with her. She's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Hey, reindeer dude, what's up?
So going back to Izo and Neko, when we see them, they are actually on a ship going up the waterfall while they're watching Big Mom's ship going down the waterfall. So what's interesting about that is, whose ship is it? My guess is that it's most likely going to be Izo's ship because if you guys can remember, Izo was a commander on Whitebeard's crew. What also comes to mind as a question is Marco was also a former commander, so potentially his crew might be making its way up, or it already made its way up, and it's waiting up on top at Wano as well. I'm not sure about the latter as much, but I believe that we can assume the ship that they're currently on is Izo's ship with Izo's crew.
I would agree with you, but still I'm a little skeptical, as you are too. Just because we simply don't know like the resources that they had after the Payback War and Blackbeard messed them up. So all those fodder characters that were on like Izo's or Marco's ships, we don't know what happened to those guys. They could all be dead for all we know.
Yeah, but we do see a large mast of a ship in one panel, and it's got like, I would be shocked if it wasn't Izo's ship, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's cool. More ships. I mean, it's more battle power, but I don't really think that there's a lot of use for ships right now, too.
Oh no, no, definitely not. What's more is who's on the ship is what I care more about. Like who did they bring with them? Like is it just gonna be random people, like just the people part of Izo's crew? Maybe he brought people from Marco's crew as well, and they're just sharing a ship. Who knows? I don't know. I just want to know who's on the ship because it's at the end of the day, it's reinforcements.
Yeah, totally. I'd love to see Jozu. I think that a lot of the people that would be on the ship were probably people that were shown in the Odin flashback where Odin's on Whitebeard's ship and we see like the kids of the Whitebeard crew getting to know Odin. And it goes to show that those people on the Whitebeard crew he had direct impact and like influence with and he interacted with them. So those are people that would more likely be liable to fight for his cause.
I agree with you there. I think that that's the most likely is going to be just Whitebeard members who know Odin. So they're going to be old school during the prime of Whitebeard's reign as a Yonko. Just old school members that are going to be on that ship is my guess.
Vista, I'd love to see Vista again. I think it would be fitting too because Vista's a swordsman and Wano's the Islands of Swords.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a good call. I would love to see Izo use swords again. I'm sure Izo knows how to use swords, but we mostly only seen Izo combat with guns. So yeah, I would love to see Izo use swords again because Izo was a scabbard. Izo was one of the nine red scabbards. I would expect Izo to still have amazing swordsmanship and be on par with at least Conjuro. And again, Conjuro is going like he is formidable, like we've mentioned before. So yeah, I think that that would be pretty cool to see some more swordsmen.
I agree. We know that Kiku's strong, and we know that Izo's her older brother. So Izo has to be mad strong, especially after venturing with the Whitebeard pirates.
Yeah. So moving on, we learn that Who's Who is turning a blind eye to Luffy and Kid, which honestly, it's a pretty big deal, but I'm thinking that between the fact that he knows that Queen is there and that there's so many like well, at least one number, but so many beast pirates there as well, I think that he's probably confident that they don't need him to help and he'd rather focus on capturing Yamato because he wants to just progress in his rankings with the Beast Pirates. But what's troubling about that, in terms of the Beast Pirates perspective, is that that just means that they're further weakening like Kaido's forces because eventually who's only doing this so that he can challenge an all-star. So eventually he will fight an all-star. Right now it's alluding that if he were to fight someone it would be Queen. That's kind of the impression I've gotten. But either way, there's going to be some infighting between potentially who's who and an all-star. Again, it just seems like Kaido's forces are just infighting so much that they are not very unified, and it's going to prove to be detrimental to their forces this battle.
I think it's already proving that it's detrimental to their forces. This is just like the first instance that we see of it. But they're all fractured. They're all sitting there vying for power right now. We see that Hacha himself took out some of the other beast pirates because they're all clamoring for power, and he himself wants to be like a member of the Toby Roppo. So it's super interesting. I think Oda really sets it up so that we're looking at Queen to be the person that Who's Who wants to challenge again, like you said. I think the whole reason why Who's Who is having his forces turn a blind eye is not only to focus on finding Yamato. I think it's also to set up Queen for failure. Because if Luffy and Kid run amok and they aren't found, it's going to be Queen's head on the chopping block already, which could open up another avenue to Who's Who challenging Queen for a spot to be an all-star.
Absolutely, I agree. Also, we learned that the Toby Roppo, the Flying Six, have subordinates. They have like their own like mini groups. So I think it's safe to say that Black Maria is gonna have her own crew or her own subordinates that's part of the brothel. So she probably has like people in the brothel that will fight for her. We've seen Who's Who. I wouldn't be surprised if Page One and his sister, I forget her name.
Ulti.
Ulti, yeah. It might. I wouldn't be surprised if the two of them shared subordinates just because they're siblings, but maybe they don't. But yeah, it's just interesting that they have their own little crews and they're not just alone.
I think it makes sense because Oda stated in the past that a lot of the Tobiropo, specifically Who's Who and Sasaki, are upset because they were former captains with crews that were recruited by Kaido. So I think if you're like of that level, again, like Kid was supposed to be, Kaido was just willing to recruit like the whole crew and make him like an autonomous part of like the Beast Pirates.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that that makes sense, and they're gonna want power and leadership.
I do too. I think the most troubling part of this whole ordeal and this whole exchange with Who's Who is the fact that they're talking about like capturing and confining Yamato. So it's more important for them to be like violent and use force to just go ahead and get another member of the crew to follow the wishes of Kaido. Like they're willing to put hands on each other and confine each other just to follow out what Kaido wants to do. And this is Kaido's son of all people. Like, you know, how vulgar or how aggressive does this crew have to be to act that way to each other?
Yeah, definitely. They don't really care about each other. They mostly care about themselves and moving on up. So I wanted to go over the first number that we've seen. His name is Hacha, which is based off of the number 8. So I don't know how high the numbers go, but if we're doing the deck of cards, then it's going to go from, well, technically it's 2 to 10 is the actual numbers because ace is technically 1. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was no number that was 1. But if there is, then he might be like the leader of the numbers, or she. But yeah, so he's got kind of like Doflamingo like sunglasses on. Like they seem to have like maybe the same guy that makes sunglasses. And he's in a suit similar to Who's Who. It's kind of, well, it's kind of like a, I don't know the proper term for it, but it reminds me of like those memes online with like the Russian squatters and they're wearing like their like suits, they're like jog suits.
Oh, the Adidas tracksuit.
Yes, he looks like he's wearing an Adidas tracksuit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks Slavic. I think what's really interesting about him, two things, is he has his own laugh. His laugh style is ha cha 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 cha. And I also think it's really interesting that he's bigger than most giants. So when he was introduced, they're like, oh my god, this guy's huge. Is he a giant? He's too big to be a giant.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that's interesting is we know that the like Kaido kind of has an Oni theme, and he's got a traditional Oni weapon, which is a giant spiked club. So he kind of fits the Oni theme. It's almost as if an Oni is wearing modern day clothing.
That's super interesting too. The only thing that kind of puts me off a little bit as to like whether or not he's like part of Kaido's race is the horns. As far as I recall, he doesn't have those huge horns that Kaido has.
Yeah, and that's another thing I'm unsure about is I'm not sure if those horns are natural horns, which I'm leaning towards that being the case, or if they're horns that Kaido gave him as a reward for, leveling up in ranks.
I guess we'll just have to see and find out. I also find it very interesting that his name itself is so close to the name of a number. So again, Kaido doesn't know your name, he knows your number. Like, he knows your title. He doesn't care who you are, he just cares about how powerful you are.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, honestly, it's a pretty impressive introduction to the numbers. Again, I think that it's safe to assume that he's going to be on the weaker side of the numbers, and the lower the number, the stronger they will be. Remember, we have not seen anyone named Ace yet on Kaido's crew as part of the Beast Pirates. So I think that Ace might be a thing. Throwing that out there.
I mean, I think it might be too. I still think that's potentially Yamato's title, but I think Kaido should know his own son's name. So I think that's why he refers to him as Yamato. But who knows? What I really want to talk about is Big Mom meeting Chopper, and Chopper looking like his little reindeer heart was about to explode, and Big Mom just being like, hey, what's up? Like, no expression. Completely deadpan. Big Mom, the lady who'll level a country for a piece of freaking cake, has no emotion. I think that's creepier than her being upset.
It's creepy. I think that she is just trying to process what she is seeing. Like she doesn't know how to react yet, and she's just like mid-process. And I really think it can go one of two ways. It can go either she remembers Chopper as Olin and remembers how great he was to her. Like he really took her under his wing and treated her really nicely and respectfully.
And
And
manipulated her into destroying a prison.
he did do that. That's true. He did do that. But overall, like he was really nice to her and he wanted to give her snacks. Like he's a doctor at the end of the day. He wants to help people, even if it's Big Mom.
And you do realize that Chopper could bring Big Mom to Onigashima Castle with the motivation of Oshiruko, which will be at the castle.
I think that the Oshiruko thing is going to happen at this point. I really do. I think that she will get another hunger pang because this is Big Mom. She can't control her hunger. But yeah, anyway, I think it could go either one of two ways. Either she remembers Chopper and wants to like side with him because she had such fond memories of him, or it can go south real bad. Remember, a quarter of the Wano forces, the samurai forces, are with Kinemon right now, and they're the ones who are exposed to Big Mom, and they would be caught blindsided by her. And Sanji's with them, of course. If Big Mom attacks them, she will decimate them. None of them are strong enough to stand up to Big Mom. It would be a huge blow. I think that potentially it would like this interaction could potentially make sure that the Wano samurai lose the war if she actually goes out and attacks them. Like that's how scary this interaction is right now. Like we don't know what's going to happen, but if she attacks, it could be the end of this Wano war, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand. I think it's more likely that Big Mom will side with Chopper because I feel like she's vulnerable right now. And the last time we saw her vulnerable, she was alone. So I don't want her to get like hit on the head or anything again. We know Big Mom is very immature mentally. And I guess like her true self is like more aligned with that childlike sense of wonderment that she expressed while she was Olin. But also, the counterpoint to that is her hunger pangs too are very childish, and her mentality is like she's a brat. That's her mentality, and I think at least the good side of that immature kind of attitude, I feel like has some association with Chopper and the way that he treated her and like the quote unquote fun adventure and the yummy sweets of Oshiruko that she had to try. So I think the only way that it could possibly go, with plot armor intact, I hate to say it, with like the Straw Hats needing to, survive at the end of the day and the samurai forces needing to be able to overcome Kaido and the Beast Pirates, I think that it's only logical that Big Mom is going to ally with them.
I agree with you, mostly because the alternative would end the story. So I think that completely agree with you, and this will further hurt the like Kaido's forces because not only like if Big Mom joins the samurai forces and fights against Kaido, not only does he lose a powerful ally, he gains a formidable enemy. And Big Mom is strong enough to take out any all-star. She's strong enough to clash with Kaido himself. Probably wouldn't win a one-on-one with Kaido, most likely, but give him a big run for his money.
Yeah, well, the point of the Yonkos are also is that similar to the Warlords, is it's all supposed to be balanced out. So, like, the Yonkos themselves keep each other in check. But, individually, they could all give each other a run for their money. At least that's how I see it. Again, there's speculation that Shanks is stronger than Kaido, or that Kaido is stronger than everybody. But I think ultimately the Yonko are very similar in power. It just manifests in different ways. Like, one of Big Mom's strongest strengths is her crew. The same could be said about the Beast Pirates. But Big Mom, her crew, they're masters of their devil fruit. And in intelligence gathering, we've seen that too.
Yeah, 100%. I also want to go back to something you said earlier of her kind of innocent, childlike nature that comes out once in a while. Another part of that is her dream. Her dream is to have a united world, or a united island in her case, where she has like every race represented. That is her dream. And if you think about it, that is a very childish dream because everyone, I mean, like, not just childish, but like everyone when they're a kid, they believe that like, we really can make sure that everyone, like all races, can be united and live peacefully. I know, sidetrack, there's a lot going on right now in the world regarding this specific topic. And Big Mom wants peace and wants all the races to be peaceful. And I think that leads credence to her potentially joining Luffy and the good guys, because obviously Luffy wants that too. Like, he saw how fishmen are treated, he saw how minks are treated. Like, he is all for the same goal. So I could totally see an alliance between Big Mom and Luffy because they share similar morals. It's just that Big Mom doesn't know the proper way to go about it.
I agree too, but we can't give Big Mom too much credit. We could talk about this a little bit. I'll never forget that Big Mom again, what she did to Lola and Chiffon. But at the same time, Big Mom's dream, more specifically, one of the reasons why she even contracted Caesar in the first place is because she wanted all of her family to be comprised of different races, yet all be the same size, so they could all see eye to eye when they sit around at the dinner table.
Yeah, that's partly because of the trauma she faced from being such a large person. And I think it's really a selfish point of view, because she believes that this will, in her twisted mind, she believes that will help people come together if they all were the same. And
yeah, the size would allow them to overcome their differences.
Yeah,
and it's very immature, because it's childish to feel like the only way that these people are different is because they look different, not because they think differently.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully she will learn to value people no matter their size, no matter their race, and accept them for who they are and accept that diversity, and not try to kind of make everyone similar, and instead embrace everyone's differences. And again, she doesn't have that right now, but maybe she will grow to see the world in that manner through allying with Luffy and crew.
I think Chopper would be the perfect teacher for that kind of stuff. And again, it just harkens back to something I actually reminded you of a couple episodes ago. I don't remember if we were talking about it live or personally, but it's the moment when Katakuri goes to Luffy after he's defeated and says, "Hey, will you be back to defeat Big Mom?" So what happens if Luffy comes back to Whole Cake Island and Big Mom is already on Luffy's side? Then wouldn't her ideology have already been defeated by Luffy, which is how he defeated Katakuri in the first place?
Yeah, I think that is very, very plausible. I actually pretty much, I want that to happen. I think that there's a good chance that happens. And it would be a good way to tie up that loose end with Katakuri. I know that everyone wants to see more Katakuri. I don't think it's really in the cards to get too much Katakuri action. Maybe the final fight, he'll come back and be sided with Luffy. But we won't see a large Katakuri arc again, I don't think, other than just kind of moments with him. And I'm any Katakuri we get, I'll be happy with. If we get more than just moments, I would prefer that, obviously, but this is just what I'm thinking.
I heard an interesting theory. I heard a theory that Katakuri could be a similar figure to Luffy as Rayleigh was, except instead of teaching him the intricacies of hockey, he will teach him the intricacies of awakening his devil fruit in an expedited manner.
Does Katakuri have Awakened Mochi devil fruit?
Yes, he does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be game for that. Again, I would love more Katakuri. Yeah, if it happens, I'll be really happy for that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'd be down for it too. I'd love to see more Katakuri, but I just don't see how he could fit into this story otherwise right now. Because even if the Big Mom Pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates ally, we're not going to see Big Mom Pirates hanging out and sailing with the Straw Hat Pirates going to the next island, you know?
No, I don't think so. Speaking of Big Mom,
oof,
Sanji had a moment, guys. So
he saw his mother-in-law naked. That's enough to scar any man. Especially when she's a big lady.
Basically what happened, guys, is Sanji saw a brothel. And Sanji can't help himself. This is just Sanji as a human. And we all have our flaws, everyone. Don't judge Sanji. He has his flaws too. And he just couldn't help himself. His body just moved him to the brothel because
it was a tractor beam. His legs weren't even working. It was just pulling him in, man.
Exactly. And so he goes in, and what he saw is not what he expected. He saw Big Mom changing into her kimono. And guys, I don't know what's more traumatic for Sanji, that is. Seeing Big Mom changing or living on Okama Island for 3 years.
He's gonna develop some new Hell's memories to work into his attacks.
Seriously, like this,
He just got a power up.
maybe he might have. Like, this is like so awful. This is so like not safe for life for Sanji. Like, he is traumatized, and I feel bad for him, but also this is hilarious.
All right, speaking of Sanji, can I just work one little thing in? I remember a couple weeks ago I sent you the transformation for Sanji going into Soba Mask, and he's like, oh, I gotta get like Usopp or Frankie to work on this raid suit for me, right?
Yeah.
He's with Usopp right now. He could be getting a power up.
It's totally possible, yeah. I would love to see. But the thing is, we barely have seen the raid suit in action. So it might happen after this arc, just because we barely have seen any of the tricks that it has. And I mean, Sanji just had like, we just got a taste of it, you know? So maybe the upgrade might not happen yet, but it's possible, yeah. It's possible that Usopp already has worked on it.
I don't think they can completely overhaul it, but what I really think is it would help to like acclimate him to it quicker because he hasn't worn a raid suit since he was a kid.
Yeah, maybe help him show the ins and outs of his suit. Be like, oh, yes, I see the design here. Yes, this is what you can do. And Sanji's like, oh, cool. Thanks for teaching me, Usopp.
Yeah, we'll put a Soge King sticker over there. We'll put a long nose over there.
Yeah.
Do you think Usopp's going to come up with a theme song for him as a Soba Mask? Because, you know, I say it every episode, but that Soge King theme song is hype. So we're going to go a little bit off the rails here, but one person that I've been thinking would show up at the battle at Onigashima that's currently happening, that would be in the fray with all the rest of the supernovas, would be Hawkins. Where the heck is Hawkins?
Yeah, we haven't seen him really since he was dealing with Law and Law's crew, right? In the jails.
Yeah, we haven't seen him. We saw that Hawkins was quote-unquote defeated, but we haven't seen him yet. But as far as we know, he's still a loyal underling of Kaido, so where the heck is he? He should be here.
No, that's true. I don't really see Hawkins as a drinking and celebrating type, to be honest. So maybe a big party isn't his sort of thing, his sort of scene. But who knows? Maybe like he could even be doing something such as looking for Yamato. You know, like he could be doing all sorts of things. We just haven't seen him. No trace of him at all, really.
But he's an entertainer. You think he'd be like painting kids' faces or making balloon animals or something, right?
No, he'd be more like making voodoo dolls of people.
I know, totally. A little eye and nude, a little powdered toad, and some dog's breath, and here you go, a mind control potion.
Yeah, here's your little voodoo personal voodoo doll for your most hated enemy on the Beast Pirate crew. Have at it.
Don't forget to throw it in the garbage disposal before you go to sleep.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a wild card too, just because we don't know where he's at.
Speaking of supernovas and powers, I feel like Apoo got nerfed really hardcore this chapter.
Yeah, so if you guys remember last chapter, we were just like, how do you deal with Apoo? He just seems overpowered. Like he was easily dealing so much damage to both Luffy and Zoro. Well, mostly Luffy. But yeah, he was like doing serious damage to them. And now we learn that if you just cover your ears, all his attacks wouldn't affect you.
I mean, that's not how sound works in real life, but I could totally see something similar to, like, after Katakuri was introduced with, like, a Logia fruit, and people like, whoa, he's way too powerful, and Oda kind of, like, retcons it a bit and does, like, the special paramecia with the asterisk next to it. I feel like we're in a similar situation now where everybody was, like, super hype at Apoo, and they're like, holy crap, he's a ranged fighter, but look at how strong he is. Like, he can deal this kind of damage to these top fighters being so far away. And now Oda's just like, yeah, he can, but not if they've got earplugs in.
Yeah, that's a huge asterisk. So this kind of leads me to think that Sanji might be a good opponent for him. And I only say this because Sanji has his raid suit and he's got like headphones. So I feel like that might block out sound, external sound. And I think that he would be able to have a really good fight with Apoo. What do you think about that?
I think it would be a candidate. However, it also got me thinking, I'm like, oh, well, what would be like the perfect counter to Apoo's devil fruit? And I was thinking of Corazone's fruit. And then I was really interested to see if that fruit's going to pop back up in the story. But I think Sanji having the headphones and muting out the sound, I feel like it does play a good candidate.
Wait, when you say core zones fruit, you're talking about Law's fruit, right?
No, Corazon and Law had two separate fruits. Corazon helped Law find the Opi Opi no Mi, but Corazon had that silence fruit. Remember when Law was in the trunk and crying?
Oh yeah. Who has that fruit now? We have no idea who has that fruit. You're right. I forgot about that fruit.
We have no idea.
Okay, yeah. No, you're right.
Ooh, you know what would be interesting? I could see somebody being part of CP0 having that fruit. It's like a perfect like assassination style of fruit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that CP0 might have it. That would be really cool. And CP0 is another wild card because we know that they're on Wano, at least a few members. Yeah, totally. I think that would be a really cool matchup. But that would like it would be just like a the thing about that matchup would be that they would completely own Apoo just so easily.
I think Apoo deserves it though. I mean, as Oda's painting in him right now, he's like a really hated character, and the fact that he set up Kid, somebody who now we're starting to like, I think Apoo's gonna get his just desserts. I mean, he got squashed like a bug last week, and the whole fandom cheered.
Yeah, no, totally. And also, I totally called it last week when I was like, I said that Kid might know how to deal with the fruit, but I was wrong. It's actually Killer. But either way, because they had experience in that alliance, they knew how to deal with it. And also, I guess Killer lived on Wano longer, so he was around Apu longer than Kid would be.
Speaking of Killer, though, I find it really interesting that God Emperor Orochi himself bestowed the Smile Devil Fruit upon Killer. Like, don't you think Orochi's got better stuff to do than to pander to every he and who that lands on the island?
I think part of it was that I really think pleasures are kind of looked down upon in the Beast Pirates. And the reason I say that was when Who's group was talking about Killer, they were kind of like making fun of him, saying like he's just a pleasure now, LOL. So I feel like either Killer gets a Devil Fruit ability and becomes stronger and potentially a stronger force for them to manipulate in the Beast Pirates crew, or he becomes a pleasure and further humiliated. It was kind of like a win-win from Orochi's standpoint.
I totally understand. But, so do you think that there's any relevance to the story in which kind of devil fruit they tried to feed Killer? Do you think that maybe even though it's a failed smile fruit, that there's some way to tap into that potential of the devil fruit? Maybe not 100%, but it could be like a power buff of like 10-20%, maybe given ability or two?
I don't know. We haven't seen any evidence of that so far, so I'm leaning towards no, but I don't know for sure.
But we also haven't had like real doctors or scientists of like chopper level looking at people that have smile fruits.
Yeah, unless we get someone like Vegapunk or Senjumaru, is that his name?
Sentomaru, hate that guy.
Yeah.
But he might show up. I mean, look at his character design. He's a sumo for God's sake.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, unless we get someone of that level of knowledge of devil fruits, I don't think that we'll know for sure. Okay, so moving forward, I kind of wanted to go over some potential future fights in this upcoming battle. Now that Marco is confirmed, I think a really cool fight would be Marco versus King. I say that because both of them knocked over the Big Mom Pirates off of the waterfall. So they kind of have a parallel already. They can both fly. They're both kind of strong. Like they're both basically commanders. Like I know that King is technically an all-star, but that's effectively commander level. So yeah, I think that it would be like the top commander of Whitebeard Pirate versus the top commander of Beast Pirates. It would be a cool fight.
You got a mythic zone versus the ancient zone. I think that's a really good one. I think that it's just going to show that mythic zones are going to always kind of beat out ancient zones simply because they're like more rare.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that because we have plot armor on the good guy's side, we can assume that Marco would come out on top. Marco also has more combat experience, I think, just because he's been around longer. Like he's been like how long ago was the Kazuki Odin events again? Like 17 years?
20 years
years?
ago.
Yeah, 20 years. So Marco has over 20 years of experience. And yeah, I think that again, King is going to be formidable. We haven't really seen King do too much fighting. So it would be a really fun fight. Like, I don't think it would be an easy fight. I think it would be a close fight, but I would give the edge to Marco.
Yeah, we still don't know what's up with King and his quote-unquote bloodline potential, but I think it would be really interesting if King's like some demon race and Marco himself being like a phoenix and, a mythical bird known for rebirth and reincarnation. I think that would be a really interesting fight. But now that Marco's back in the story, going away from the fights for 2 seconds, as we know right now, like, Kaido's immortal. The only other power that we've seen that can manipulate something like immortality is Law's fruit, and we know that the price to use that technique would be death for Law. I posed this question earlier to you in the week, but I just wanted to bring it up. Do you feel that Marco's regeneration powers could offset that which would kill Law by using his regeneration or his life surgery?
Okay, so first off, let's go to the mystical being, which is known as a phoenix. A phoenix typically is able to, they have healing properties where they're able to be reborn after they die. From their ashes, they come alive and become anew again. And another interesting thing about phoenix is that their healing properties can be used on other individuals that aren't phoenix. For instance,
from their tears, I believe, right?
I mean, I've seen it different types of things. For instance, with Final Fantasy, there's an item called Phoenix Down, which is a phoenix feather. So that can resurrect one of your party members if they faint. Phoenix Tears can do it. I've seen different aspects of the phoenix able to heal and restore someone. So, and also Marco has had this devil fruit for a long time, long enough where he's probably mastered it fully at this point. He would, if it has healing potential, he would probably know about it and be able to use it to heal others. One thing that goes against this idea, though, is that if Marco could heal someone, why didn't he heal Ace?
There was a time where he had sea stone handcuffs on when Ace was getting killed.
Okay.
And he couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. So then that is understandable that he wouldn't be able to have healed Ace at that point in time. So that makes sense. So yeah, it's an unknown, but I think it's very feasible that he'd be able to heal someone. And yeah, I like the idea. I think that maybe, like you said, maybe Law will use the Opi Opi no Mi to remove Kaido's immortality, and Marco Phoenix will make sure that Law doesn't die from it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, and I just wanted to note, like, when Marco's Phoenix powers were introduced, he did exhibit his healing. However, he only healed himself. We've never actually seen him heal others. I think perhaps healing others might be, like, a side effect of his fruit awakening, maybe, but we know that zones awaken in different ways from Paramecia, so I'm not 100% on that. It's just some food for thought.
Absolutely. Moving on to another potential battle is Zoro versus King. And I think this would be a really good fight too, because they are both sword masters. We know that King has a sword. We know that Zoro has had huge upgrades to his sword fighting techniques. I think that obviously a flying swordsman, having flight would give you a huge advantage in terms of fighting, but Zoro can make slashes that have a very large range, way beyond his sword itself. Kind of like let's say like Ichigo, where like the Getsuga
Tensho. You could have just said a shockwave attack.
Yeah, but you got to give that visual. So yeah, just some sort of shockwave attack through his swords to counter him in the air. I think it would be really a cool fight. What do you think about this battle?
I mean, I think it would be super cool. I definitely think Zoro would be at a huge mobility disadvantage fighting somebody who can fly. However, we also did see Zoro at Dressrosa fight Pika, and he was kind of like in the air propelling himself with his swords. But I guess he was also launched with a King Punch before that. So can Zoro fly with his swords? I don't know. Find out next time on One Piece.
And he also faced Monet, and she flies.
Yeah, but that was kind of different because Monet already like bit the shoulder of Toshigi and she was just chilling out and they were in a room. Like, it's not like Monet was flying anywhere.
Yeah, true. However, technically, Onigashima, where they're at, it's covered. They're in a giant skull, effectively. So there will, I mean, like it's humongous. Don't get me wrong. There's ample space to fly, but there is a limit. It's not like you can go like super super high. There is a limit, and yeah, I think that the matchup would be fairly even. I would actually say that it's slightly on King's favor just because of the mobility. I don't see Zoro one-on-one and soloing him myself without some luck. But it's Zoro we're talking about. Anything is game. He absolutely has the potential to defeat King in a one-on-one combat.
One of the things about the monster tree of the Straw Hats so far that we haven't seen is we haven't seen like the full expanse of their training since the time skip. So like I hate to go back to it, but like what's the deal with Zoro's eye? No, but we know that Zoro learned armament hockey from Mihawk, okay? I don't think that's the only thing Zoro learned from Mihawk. So there's still abilities and other things that Zoro has to showcase on top of like getting other swords. That's going to make him stronger and a viable candidate to fight somebody like King, who we think is strong. We've seen a couple feats from King, but we still have no idea what his real power is or what's up with his race that makes him so special.
I think the only thing that we can say for certain about King is he's gonna be stronger than Jack, and Jack is a beast. So,
Literally.
literally a beast. So yeah, I think that he's gonna be formidable.
Yeah.
Okay, so next potential fight is a Sanji versus Page One rematch. I think that Page One might not have necessarily shown his full potential and full combat prowess. I hope he didn't, because the first fight, Sanji really did a number on him and low difficulty defeated Page One. What do you think about? Do you think that this might happen again? This fight might happen again, and if it does, how do you think it would turn out?
I think it could happen. I think now that we see like Page One's mentality when he's not out acting like a hard ass on the street, I feel like Page One is actually one of the weaker members of the Tobiropo, which we both agreed on. I think if Sanji and Page One have a rematch, I think it's going to be low diff again, Sanji beating Page One. I think it is set up though for Ulti kind of being like, you beat up my big brother, now I'll show you real pain kind of business. And the real fight is Sanji versus Ulti, and he's like, I can't hit a woman. She's pretty.
I think that is where I'm going with this actually is Sanji versus Ulti. It leads into Sanji versus Ulti because Ulti is protective of her brother, and we really get the impression that she is more powerful than Page One. So yeah, I would love to see that dynamic between Sanji versus Ulti. Like you said, he doesn't hit women, so that's kind of his Achilles heel, fighting women. And
I think it would be really interesting if one of the other female members of the revolutionaries right now, or even the Straw Hats, like show up to defend him. So I don't think somebody like Nami is enough to beat a member of the Tobiropo by herself, or even give somebody like Ulti a run for her money. But we haven't seen a good Robin fight ever since Skypiea. So it would be really fitting for Robin kind of to step in and be like, no, Sanji, this is my fight. Why don't you fight like somebody tougher? And that's where Sanji could fight somebody like Queen or somebody like Jack, somebody who he like needs to fight, because the Tobiropo are strong, don't get me wrong. But, like, there's a reason why the Straw Hats are structured the way they are. And there's a reason why the Beast Pirates are structured the way they are. Like, since the beginning of time, Oda's laid out the fights. Like, you know, Luffy fights number 1, Zoro fights number 2, Sanji fights number 3. It's a little different with Jinbei in the mix. But the Tobiropo we know aren't 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, they're not the top contenders of the Beast Pirates. So I would like to see Robin or some of the other weaker members of the Straw Hat crew like to get some action against the Tobiropo. But I feel like Sanji initially fighting Page One would be like the perfect setup for like Ulti to jump in. And we see that Sanji and Page One already have, you know, they already have that conflict in their past.
yeah, I think that if Sanji does fight Ulti, ultimately he would tap out with someone else, and it would be another woman fighting Ulti. But I actually disagree with you. I don't think that it would be Robin, and here's my reason. I think that Robin's perfect counterpart for this battle that she would fight is Black Maria.
I feel like they would be a good matchup too because Black Maria owns the brothel and Robin's job was the geisha. Yeah, I get that. I feel like that would be a great matchup too.
On top of the brothel thing, because Robin does have that history, Robin can also make herself giant. Like we've seen her like a giant form of Robin, and we know that Black Maria is very, very large. So I think that it would just be a really good battle between the two of them.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Again, like I mentioned, I'm super stoked to actually see like a real Robin fight because we've seen Robin display her powers, but we haven't seen her go all out since she practically joined the Straw Hats. Especially because she's one of the members on the crew that actually has a devil fruit, and we know she's strong. Like she's one of the older members of the crew. She had a hard life. She managed to survive by being a freaking assassin. We got to see more Robin.
Yeah, and she was also, Crocodile's second-hand person. She was very strong on Crocodile's crew too.
Yeah, she's super strong. I want to see her showcase her powers. I find it very interesting that she can now basically make flower clones.
Yeah, exactly. You want to go through the final?
Yeah, we could talk about the final one. This is one I brought up before, but again, perfect segue. Now that Jinbei's in the mix, I'd actually like to see him fight Jack, simply because Jack is known for absorbing water, and Jinbei is a master of fishman karate, which utilizes water currents. So it would be really interesting to find how they interact. Now, Jinbei doesn't need water necessarily to fight, because he can utilize the pressure and air currents. However, he does get a huge power up when he fights in water. So I can almost see kind of Jack sucking up the water and being like, oh yeah, fishman, you can't do anything with this now. And, Jinbei being like, oh, you underestimate me. You're a fishman too. You should know I don't need water to fight.
Yeah, I really like the idea that the two of them are fishmen, and one is a good guy fishman and one is a bad guy fishman. I like that parallel. Also, I kind of like the idea that maybe Jinbei is able to somehow get Jack close to the water, go close to the ocean water, and debilitate him. We've seen Jack get sunk to the bottom of the ocean and become debilitated because that's the devil fruit's weakness. So I believe I could see the way that that fight ends is a similar situation where Jinbei uses his water flow to kind of trap Jack into seawater and incapacitate him.
Yeah, all the while spitting out a monologue about how you're so stupid as a fishman because you could give up that what makes you strong, your ability to swim.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I like that. I like that fight a lot. I think it would also just we know that Jinbei's strong, but his bounty was never 1 billion berry, so it would really up his bounty level too if he's able to fight and defeat Jack.
One more point about my boy Jinbei before we cut this whole thing off. So now that Jinbei is officially a member of the Straw Hats, and no longer do we have a monster trio, but now a monster quartet because Jinbei is just that badass. Now we bring up the question of Luffy has transformations, Zoro has transformation, Sanji has a transformation. Do you think Jinbei is going to get a transformation?
I don't think so yet. We just don't have any evidence of it yet. So right now I'm leaning towards no. I think that it's definitely plausible and it would be cool if he got a transformation. I think it would definitely be water based, like going back to Naruto, maybe like a Susanoo armor type thing, but made out of water, something like that, or like maybe like a water dragon that he's like inside the middle of and he's able to control it, something like that.
I mean, that's cool, but I was more thinking along the lines of, so what if we find out that Fishman and Mink split off from like a similar ancestor, and maybe Fishman have a similar technique to a Sulong that we've just never known about. So what if Jinbei can kind of like release the whale shark within, which itself in One Piece universe, bigger is more powerful, and what's larger in the world other than a whale?
I mean, that would be badass. And if you think about fishmen, they typically do live underwater and they don't see a moon. So, and also, another thing about the moon and water, they have an interesting relationship where it controls the tides. So, potentially, a moon could affect a fishman in a similar way if that is true, if they did split off from the same kind of genealogy as minks. The only thing that I have against this idea, though, is Jinbei has seen the moon. Like, there's no way he hasn't. And Arlong as well.
The moon doesn't have to be the impetus, though. What
Right.
I'm
The moon
saying
doesn't have to
is,
be. But if the moon is the thing that causes them to transform, it can't be the moon is what I'm trying to get at, is because yeah, like they've already seen the moon. Nami was on the crew with the Arlong pirates. There's like she would have known about this. We've never seen any evidence of it. So it would have to be from something else. I don't know what it could be, but water and moon do have a special connection, so it could be the moon in a different regard. I don't know.
I mean, what if it could have something to do with like the sun? Because we know of the sun pirates. Maybe it's like a hidden fishman karate technique. Because we know that even though minks can go so long, they have to train themselves to control it. Maybe it's something similar but different with the fishman, where they have to be able to unlock it. Like, it's there because, again, they're like animal slash human hybrids. However, there's just different ways to unlock this latent potential.
And Jinbei is part of the Sun Pirates, so there is some truth to there is a relationship with Jinbei specifically and the Sun. So I think that there is potential for that, yeah.
I mean, maybe Fisher Tiger has done one of the only feats, in the One Piece universe, that of crawling and climbing up the red line by himself. I mean, again, I'm not, no pun intended, but it seems a bit fishy if he could just do something like that from straight willpower alone.
Oh my
Maybe he
God,
had
you're awful. Don't want to sound fishy.
maybe no, but maybe there was like a transformation behind that. Maybe there was like some latent potential that he unlocked while he was doing that he specifically shared with Jinbei because he knew that this is something that could protect like Otohime's dream.
Hey, I am open to this idea.
Hey, but who knows? I mean, we know that the sun and the moons are both very important to the One Piece universe. We know that there's a whole bunch of races in One Piece disenfranchised. We know that the minks and the fishman are very similar in appearance because they're both half human, half animal hybrids. And we know that the minks have a transformation which have been exhibited that have certain conditions that must be met, which not all minks can, do at will. So who knows? I don't think it would be off to see something similar with fishmen. I think it just requires willpower and resolve and studying of ancient cultural teachings. And this is all criteria that somebody like Jinbei would meet, and not a lot of other fishmen in the story would meet.
I think there's truth to that. I definitely won't rule it out. I think that would be really cool if it happened. And I think that this also wraps up this episode. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you very much. If you want to reach out to us, hit us up at the Void Century Podcast at gmail.com. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all your platforms. And if you'd like to catch us on Instagram or Twitter, reach out to us at the Void Century PC. Thanks for sailing with us.
Bye.
Bye.